Hello Kerbal and welcome to part 5 of Mining the Mun, landing the Great Extractor. Well, yes, we're going to be landing the mining facilities of the Great Miner, or whatever you want to call it. But first off, we need to get our rover down into that crater. Right, let's take stock of our situation. One, we've only landed a rover down here, but we've got the facilities up in orbit to process the ore, so we're ready in that respect. But we need to have a mining facility and somewhere to store our mining Kerbals. Now, at the moment, we've got 3 Kerbals on the surface Mun. We've got Dolin, who's the pilot of this all-terrain vehicle, I think I called it. And we also have an engineer called Harkas. And we've also got a scientist, Nina. Well, you don't really need a scientist, but you do need an engineer if you're going to mine on the Mun. Because for some reason, the developers of the game, Kerbal Space Program, decided that an engineer would make the mining go faster. It must be some unique quality us engineers have in making things work properly. Anyway, we're now here at the flag of the Mun, where we landed our first lander on the Mun at about 5.4%. We do some surveying later on, but at the moment Dolin's going to be celebrating her first arrival at the mining site. They're going to be staying here for quite a while. They're going to be the first mining crew, so yes, they're allowed to celebrate. However, there's one thing we need to do first, and that is build our miner. Right. I'm going to get the lander can and... well, yes, we need storage for the ore. But what I want to do is some way of taking the ore out of there and taking it up to the station. So you can see what I'm doing by here. I'm actually building a storage container on top of it. So we'll land that, dock it to the top of it, use the space, the Mun tag we've got up there. That's why we've got a smaller adapter on the top, because I didn't think of putting the large docking adapters on the tag, which in itself causes problems. We'll get to that. But the idea is we're going to be landing, well, bringing the container down, dock it to the top of the miner, transfer the ore across, lift off, go to the station, and hey presto, we've got our ore in orbit. But I'm worried about docking that when landing. Right, anyway, to the build. We've put 2 ore mining ores, drills to the side of this. I think that'll be enough for a start. This is obviously going to be the first iteration of our mining facility. And we've got 4 Gigantor solar panels to make sure we have enough power. Those drills do take a lot of power. And I've also put 4 of those radiators on there. And I think they're the small, yeah, I'd say they're the small ones on there. And that's just because I've read that these mining drills, come on, get them right. These drills will cause overheating at some point and reduce the efficiency of your mining. So having those on there is important. And how important, I'm not sure, because this is going to be our first attempt at mining. Right, I'm going to make sure we've got enough stability with all those landing legs. Just make sure you line it up properly, because you don't want it tipping over as you're landing. Okay, that looks about right. Yeah, also one on the side. I put them on in 2 sets, and that's because I don't like the symmetry mode where it covers things like the front of it, the front of this craft. And that's because we're going to put ladders on it. We need some way for our curl to get up. Anyway, let's save this. But before we go do that, take that off, we need somewhere for our Kerbals to stay. So again, I'm going to build this with the idea that we can dock this on top and transfer Kerbals back and forth to the space station and back to the back to Kirby. I do re-engineer the top. What do you call it? The thing on the top. Come on, words. The hitchhiker pod, that's it, yes. the top hitchhiker pod I'm going to re-engineer later on because we're going to want that to re-enter the atmosphere. A quick and easy return to the man. Now the hitchhiker pod I couldn't put on the side, I was planning on the side of the tank, but it wouldn't let me, so I put those struts on the outside. And in the end, I think this build doesn't look too bad. Looks a bit thin at the moment, but wait till we get the accessories on there, like solar panels and the sky dishes, so we can get the latest results of the football or Kerbal ball, whatever they play on Kerbal. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but here, let's make sure this is engineered correctly because we need to land it. As you see, we've got a rocket on here because this also doubles up as an escape system. Now this can launch up, perhaps rendezvous with the space station, or launch into orbit around the man and stay in orbit while we send a rescue crew. Perhaps say there's a mine explosion or something, I don't know. Then we can bring our Kerbals back safely somehow. And safety for our mining operation is #1 concern. That is why we're building this now, and we're going to be launching this and landing this on the man. Because don't forget, we've got 3 Kerbals on the man, and they've got no way of escaping or getting home. And that was a bit of an oversight, I know. I should have landed this first before the rover. But what are you going to do? Those Kerbals volunteered. Yeah, those are going to be our satellite dishes, so we can receive our daily topics, our daily shows, like Lost on the Man. Or whatever shows the Kerbals watch. Right, everything looks good. I think we'll do a bit of engineering here. I'm going to land this without a Kerbal in it. So we need a reaction wheel to give it extra split control, and a not a command pod, a probe body. Something to control it with. Right, I have to warn you, during this episode, I'll be fiddling with the light enhancement mod. Especially at this point, because I like the way we were launching into the sunset, launching into the morning. And that's what every Kerbal should do. Anyway, with all that fiddling with the light enhancement mod, we do eventually get up into orbit. Okay, the plan is not to go dock with any of the space stations, but directly land on the man, because it's much easier to transfer to the man and land on the equator. It's much quicker than having to line up the space station. So I thought, what the hell, we'll do that. Now we do get into some problems, we'll get to that when we get there. But first off, we do have to transfer and create our maneuver nodes into our orbit burn around the man. Okay, say bye-bye to Kerbin, because we're on our way to the man. And I have no idea where I got that voice from. You have to forgive me, because I'm just stalling for time as we say bye to Kerbin. As we get to the next clip. Okay, I mess up here somehow. For some reason the orbit got a bit wonky. We're going to pass the other side of the man. So I create another maneuver node, which will short burn. But as soon as we get closer to that maneuver, everything changes. Look at the delta V, it changed suddenly from 17 as it meters per second to over 500. Now, I think that's the way the orbits are calculated. For some reason, the game thought we were going to pass that side. As soon as we got closer, it decided, oh no, we're going to pass this way. And I think you've seen it before when it's glitching out. Anyway, now we're going to get into orbit to the man, and we're going to have to prepare for a landing. But before we actually do a landing, we need to know where exactly to land, or where not to land. So we send our scouts, which are down on the surface of the man, around trying to find the highest concentration of ore. That's where we can land our lander or our miner, and we can make sure we don't land our base on it, so it's not in the way of that. Because precision landing is not my specialty. And yes, make sure you do this during daylight. I planned this so that the sun would be pointing at a bit of an angle, so we can use the shadow of the spacecraft when we're coming in for landing as an easy visual guide to tell you how far up you are and how far down you need to come for landing, if you get what I mean. NASA done this with the moon landings. Right, well, one of the most exciting things in Kerbal Space Program, landing. You see, I've created a maneuver node. The stage we got there gives us enough delta V to do such a harsh maneuver, and we'll be coming down almost straight down to the surface. Now this is handy because it makes it a lot easier to land. You haven't got as much potential velocity as you would if you were coming down on a steeper angle, or no, that'll be for a more shallower angle, because you've got still more orbit velocity that you've accumulated. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so what are we doing now? We've done our burn. We don't want to land with that booster on the bottom, so stage away. And now the most important thing, engine on. And let's quickly check the map, make sure that we're not going to be landing in the wrong place. And it looks like we're going to be missing the landing spot. And I think there was that decoupling node, it changed our trajectory slightly. Oh yes, if you click on rename vessel, you can change it to whatever icon you want to appear on the map. Right, as you see, I think we're going to miss it, so let's burn it up a bit so we can increase our arc and land in the correct area. I know we may have enough fuel on this, but just in case, we want most of that fuel or taking off as an emergency. Okay, so slow burn here, trying to line up everything. I think we're on course. Landing legs away, and I don't know if you remember from one of the previous episodes of Mining On The Mun, or perhaps my moon landing tutorial, I like to reduce the speed at certain altitudes. And it's by here I realized that we are traveling at over 200 meters per second, and we're come under 5,000 meters. There goes that at the stage. And it doesn't, we've only got, the reason is this needs to be a bit slower than other landings. It's because we've got a small engine for a large spacecraft, which means we have enough thrust to weight ratio to get off the Mun. The thrust weight ratio is low enough that we can't reduce our speed as quick as most of the other rockets I've used to land on the Mun and take off with. So yeah, you can see we're not doing too good by here. And there's the shadow. Could have used to land with, and no! What have you done? Oh, all that hard work. Those Kerbals are stranded until we get the X up here. Oh, the shame of it. Now by here I was realizing there's quite a lot of debris on the Mun now, and some of it hasn't exploded. Now what I could have done was go to the tracking station, deleted everything. I was mulling over whether to load a quick save. I made a quick save, as everyone should do, before coming down and doing a landing burn. Before we started committing to landing. So, by here I was watching this go down the hill, seeing how long it would take, and mulling over should I load the quick save. Yeah, I think it will. Because not the reason that this is going to be causing... No, not the reason that I wanted this to be realistic. I didn't want all that debris here. I'm going to land mining equipment. There's going to be a lot of parts in the area. My frame per seconds will go down. I don't know if I mentioned it in when I'm building the Mun space station. The frames per second were dropping down to under 20 frames per second. Now I find out that the base gets a bit worse this one. But we'll get to that when we land our miner. Okay, with this, do slow thrusts. What I did here, I came over the crater. I reduced my speed to almost 0, so then the only speed you have is that of the gravity pulling you down. And just keep control of that. Make sure you land at under 5 meters per second, or at least under 7 meters per second, because most of the parts tolerances are at 7 meters per second, and I think you can damage landing legs like that. So, yeah, a bit of a bounce, but we survived. Yay! Now for our miner. Right, what we want here is a little engine, not that big please. Just something that can go fight the gravity of the man, and that's not to take off into orbit, that is actually to move the miner about a bit. Just in case, I'm not entirely sure if the ore will run out if you stay in one spot. Also, you can see I'm using a different launcher. That is in fact the launcher we used to create our space station around Kerbal in the space station tutorial. You see that always happens when we activate that engine. Unusual MO. I'm fast forwarding through these videos quickly so we can get our docking. So we can get this to the man and land this on the man. And watch me crash again. Only joking, I don't crash again. But this space station is a bit laggy. I think it's time to upgrade my PC. This was actually about 11 frames per second. That's why this video is marginally speeded up a bit. Well, not only that, but I wanted to get this over with so we can go and watch Landing on the Mun, which is a bit more exciting, I think, because this was quite slow. Right, a quick fast forward into this video to landing. This time, we're going to take a shallower approach. I'm still not entirely sure which is the best approach. I think this is in the fact that you're not burning everything in one go. Right, a note to you budding engineers out there. Those small docking ports are not good to use. As you'll find out in one part of this video. Yep, so here we go. It wobbles too much, there's not much structure to that. So if you can, use the larger docking ports. But right now we've got to concentrate on landing without wobbling. Please. Okay, so what we're going to have to do, I'll go through all this landing. We need to reduce our speed at different altitudes. And I think I've written them down by here. At about 30 kilometers. We will reduce our speed to under 300 meters per second. And then when we get down to 15 kilometers, we will reduce our speed further to under 100 meters per second. And then it'll be about you mainly judging your velocity coming down. If you're coming too fast, use your control velocity. But at one point, I like to kill the velocity so you come straight down. You chase that prograde marker, so it's going straight down, a retrograde marker, and then you basically have to reduce your velocity going down. So you're not having to worry about going side to side on the surface. And we were under 30 kilometers. So thrust up. And when you're doing this, it's a good idea to keep an eye on the map. Especially if you're trying to do precision landing in the same spot. Because this isn't easy, but it's not hard, if you get my meaning. Once you've mastered it, I start off with making a maneuver node, which is going to overshoot. And then kill your velocity at certain stages till it gets closer and closer to your landing spot. The important thing is to make sure you have enough delta V. And at this point, I'm worrying because you've got the 4 engines in the corner. This tag has to go and dock with the space station up in orbit. You're going to have to somehow get the extra pod, which is going to get the ore from that miner, back up into the space station, where we then can process the ore and create fuel to refuel that space tug. I may redesign that space tag so we have a larger docking port. That means redesigning the Kerbal containers and the ore container so we have a large docking port. Well, that's not too bad. We can use the tug then to transfer fuels to Kerbal back and forth to the man. Interesting. What should we do? I don't know. Right, now again we'll reduce our velocity. We're going to be at about under 100 meters per second. Keep an eye on the map. Make sure that your trajectory is going to land in that crater or mark a large area, because you're not going to exactly land in it directly where you want to go. Okay, so this is the part where I'm slowly reducing our speed. We're not over the crater yet. Make sure that you reduce your speed at the rate that you're coming down. This was done by eye. I wasn't looking at the figures. I was making sure that the retrograde marker was slowly moving to the center of the nav ball. But make sure you don't land on those slopes, because they will end your day in a bad way. Okay, so we're just over 20 meters per second. Coming down, we still got about 4 kilometers to go. That means your speed is still going to increase, but you want to keep it stable. Now we've got 4 engines on this, which means we can reduce our speed a lot quicker. We've got more control over this. We do have enough fuel. The worst case scenario, we can decouple that space tag and use the landing engine on the miner. But we actually do have enough fuel for this. So you see now we're over the crater. I'm reducing my speed, chasing the retrograde marker to the center, and it's about feathering that throttle. I'm reducing the speed very slowly, and we can see our shadow now as we're coming over the crater. Make sure we're not going to land on anything. The sun. Yep, I was looking for my shadow then. Okay, this seems to be a good spot. It's in between the rover, where the highest ore concentration is, and the base, which means that we're going to have a relatively good amount of ore collection right here. Right, I've turned the lights on right here, and they're actually quite bright. The lights are actually on the man tag. I forgot again to put lights on the building, on the bases, like the miner, and I forgot to put them on the base, and there's none on the rover. Right, here's a little bit of panic mode here. But as I said, they've got 4 engines here. It is quite easy to control. It actually makes it quite stable as well. We get a bit of a bounce here. But that was because I was finding it hard. As we were getting closer, the frames were reducing. I had about 11 frames per second. Said, yes, I need to upgrade my PC. But we're here. Now we can go mining. But first things first. Let's do a quick save, but not just any old quick save. If you press Alt and then press F5, you can name your quick save. And this makes it easier because you can have a quick save, quickly press F9 to reload, or you can press Alt F9 and choose that, which is the Miner Landing episode 5, so I could easily reference it. Right? I've put these drills to action groups, so switch them on. They'll go start drilling into the ground. They don't start harvesting, you have to start that manually. So if you right click on the drill, start surface harvest. Do it on both sides. Then more action groups to activate the solar panels and the radiators. because those drills are going to take a lot of energy. I'm not sure how much energy they're going to take. Got a large battery on this, but it's only going to last so long. And we have ore, ladies and gentlemen. First time in all this series, we have started our ore collection. But before we go celebrating, we have one thing to do. Let's bring the rover over. Let's get Harkus out, because he's our resident engineer. He's been briefed in how this was built by the epic engineer Obater, who's designed this hulk of this marvel of engineering. As he tries to find his words to say to make himself sound cool, and he's failing in the process. Alright, so Harkus is going to inspect, make sure everything is working, everything is mining at a slow fraction, because we don't want the computer to overload. Inspecting the outside, nothing's wrong with it. And he decides, he gets out his selfie stick and says, "Here, Mom, look at this." He's going to send a picture to his parents on Kirby. Or he's going to put it on the multimedia channel with Kerbal or Twitch, or wherever you want to call it. Anyway, after taking his selfie, he has to go and do his job. At a very slow pace of about 10 frames per second, he gets in, and you see, with an engineer in there, you mine the ore a lot faster, and I mean a lot faster. Now, this is me trying to show you how slow the ore is without Harkus in there, but I think you've already seen that, so if you enjoyed this video, why not hit that like button? It helps the video become visible to more people who may also enjoy this. And if you did enjoy this video, but you're not already subscribed, why not think about subscribing as Bardolin does her acrobatics? Because there'll be more videos coming soon, and I've also got a lot more videos up there already. But as we change the tone of the audio of this video now, because we send our Kerbals to bed, because they've been a hard day, I'm Obater, trust me, I'm an engineer. I will see you guys next time.